Welcome to The Explainer. You know, for centuries, people have asked this one big question. Does astrology actually work? Well, today we're going to put that to the test, using a bit of science, a little psychology, and some really fascinating data.
So let's just jump right in. The big question we're really digging into today is this. Do the stars actually decide our future? Is your personality, your destiny somehow written in the sky the moment you're born?
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, what is astrology really? Then we'll check the physics, look at a little bit of psychology, some cool mind tricks, and then dive into the hard data before we reach our final verdict.
All right, first things first. Let's make sure we're all talking about the same thing. What is the core claim of astrology? So, at its heart, astrology is the belief that where the sun, moon, and planets were in the sky at the exact moment you were born has a real, predictable impact on who you are, what you do, and what happens in your life. Okay, and this is super important. We have to draw a clear line between astrology and astronomy. They sound similar, but they are worlds apart. Astronomy, that's the real science, right? It's about studying what planets are made of, where they are, all that good stuff. Astrology, on the other hand, is the belief system that says those planets are directly influencing us down here.
All right, let's play along for a second. Let's say astrology is real. If the planets are affecting us, you've got to ask, how? I mean, what physical force could possibly be at work here?
You know, when we look at the universe, scientists have found 4 fundamental forces that run the whole show. So if astrology is a thing, it has to be using one of these. Which one could it possibly be?
Well, think about it. The nuclear forces? Now, they only work on a super tiny scale, like inside an atom. Electromagnetism? Nope, planets aren't giant magnets pulling on us. That really only leaves one contender that can reach across the massive distances of space: gravity.
But here's where that idea just kind of falls apart. First off, distance is a huge problem. Gravity gets super weak really fast the further you go. The planets are just way too far away to have any real gravitational effect on you. I mean, seriously, the doctor who delivered you as a baby exerted more gravitational pull on you than the planet Mars did. And beyond that, gravity's all about mass and distance. It has nothing to do with your birthday. Plus, astrology is still stuck in the past. It mostly uses the planets they knew about thousands of years ago. What about Uranus and Neptune? The physics it isn't there. Okay, so if the physics doesn't hold up, why do so many people swear by their horoscope? Why does it feel so spot on? Well, it turns out the answer might not be in the stars, but inside our own heads.
Check this out. Back in 1948, a psychologist named Bertram Forer did this really clever experiment. He told his students he was going to give them each a personalized personality analysis based on their birth details. So they all handed in their info, and he gave each of them a unique write-up.
And the result? It was a huge success. The students were asked to rate how accurate their personal profile was, and on average, they gave it a 4.26 out of 5. They were totally convinced it nailed their personality. But then came the big reveal. Forer told them the truth, and here's the kicker. Every single student got the exact same personality description. He just copied and pasted it from a random newspaper astrology column. This experiment perfectly shows something we now call the Forer effect. It's this weird quirk of our brains where we see vague, general statements and believe they're deeply personal and tailored just for us. It's why horoscopes and even things like online quizzes can feel so spookily accurate. So our minds can definitely play tricks on us. But what happens when we take our feelings out of the equation and just look at the cold, hard data? What do big scientific studies have to say when they actually test these astrological claims?
Let's start with this one. A French scientist got his hands on the birth dates and career info for over 25,000 people. That's a lot of data. He wanted to know if your star sign had anything to do with the job you end up in.
You know the claims. People influenced by Mars are supposed to be athletes, people influenced by Venus are supposed to be artists, that kind of thing. Well, after crunching all those numbers, the result was nothing. Zero correlation. There was absolutely no link between someone's zodiac sign and their career.
Okay, for the next test, things get even more interesting. The same scientist took the astrological birth charts for 10 convicted murderers and shuffled them in with the charts of 10 regular law-abiding folks. Then he gave the stack to a bunch of professional astrologers and said, "Okay, tell me who's who."
So if there's any truth to this, they should have been able to spot the criminal tendencies in the charts, right? Well, they couldn't. They completely failed. Their performance was actually worse than if they had just guessed randomly by flipping a coin.
And finally, let's talk about love. A huge study out of Manchester looked at census data for, get this, 10 million married couples. They wanted to test one of the most popular claims in all of astrology, zodiac compatibility.
Yeah, you've heard it a million times, right? Oh, you're a Leo. You should totally be with an Aries. But when they looked at the real-world data from 10 million actual marriages, the results were crystal clear. No zodiac sign pairing was any more or less likely to end up together than any other. None at all.
So, we've looked at the physics, we've looked at the psychology, we've looked at massive amounts of data. After all that, what's the final verdict?
Well, when you stack it all up, the scientific evidence just doesn't support the claims that astrology makes. And, maybe that's why, as our source material notes, you usually find your daily horoscope in the newspaper's entertainment section, right next to the comics and the crossword puzzle.
But, this whole investigation leaves us with a really interesting and maybe more important question. If our future isn't written in the stars, then what does shape our lives? What are the real forces at play? Now that is an investigation for another day.